All right, here's what we're going to talk about. Today, we're going to talk about the 10 essentials that are framed by cognitive biases. Familiar with cognitive biases? There's 20 basic human cognitive biases. You familiar with that at all? Anyone? No.
Bueller.
Bueller? All right, so your brain hides things from you. We talk about this topic all the time, but rarely do we actually talk about why this happens and where it shows up. So what I did today is I broke down what I consider probably the top 10 cognitive biases where your brain is tricking you in regards to this business specifically. So we're going to talk through some of those. I'll give you an example. Well, let's go through the presentation and then I'll give you some of these examples that you can use. This should give you some food for thought. So let's talk about first. The first cognitive bias is the planning fallacy. The planning fallacy is, I'll do it later. And everybody can relate to this. I'll start tomorrow. I'll do it later. I'll get to the lead later. I'll feel like doing it later. I need to get to a spot where I actually feel like doing that. And the reality is, you won't. And once you start to recognize that you just won't, and you have to take action now, because your brain is tricking you into believing that. So prospecting delayed is prospecting denied. Once you start to realize that, then you realize why you're missing your goals. It's because you always think that you're going to have time. You believe you have more energy. You believe you'll have more focus, but you really won't. The morning hours are king in regards to this. They have to be blocked and stuck to. So if it's 8:30 to 11:30, you have to treat that as sacred. Waiting until the afternoon is sabotage disguised as flexibility. So my coach used to teach me the concept of front loading. We all have this idea that, oh, I'll get to that Friday because I have a light day and I'll get some extra stuff in Friday, or I'll come back in on Saturday and make up for the calls I didn't get to today. But the reality is that flexibility is just denying you the progress that you're actually looking for. A better thought is I need to front load it because I know as the week goes on and as the day goes on, you need to see that in terms of energy. I'm going to have less energy as the day goes on. I'm going to have less energy for the business as the week goes on. Monday at 8:30 is high time. If you're not treating it that way, then that's why you're not getting the results. That's the planning fallacy. You are not responsible enough to plan your day as it unfolds. You have to take the week in advance and the day in advance and plan it and stick to that and recognize those are two different people, two different cognitive biases that are challenging each other. And the one that will win is the one that you allow. I deserve a cup of coffee on that point. Point two. The next bias is the availability bias. The availability bias is, well, I made a lot of calls yesterday. I took a listing yesterday. I got a couple deals under contract this week. Right? You remember the highlights, not the habits. We're all doing this. We're all living off of yesterday's results in every way. And even if you think inside of a coaching call, well, I'm not really that impressed with what I did, it doesn't mean that in the quiet of your own mind that you're not convincing yourself that your current activity is okay because I did pretty good so far. Right? It's the availability bias. Your brain recalls one day you crushed 50 calls and assumes that's normal, but it isn't. So track your contacts daily. Most agents overestimate their activity and underperform as a result. The only scoreboard that matters is the one you write down. And if you think about this point and recognize, I know this point, I've heard this point 6,000 times, but yeah, I'm not really tracking it in that way. And I'm not looking back at it over the last week and determining how much did you actually do. I used to show up to every single coaching call excited. I did such a great job this week. I'm so excited about the business. Let's go back and look at your results. Why did you hit 12 contacts on Wednesday? I don't remember. All I remember is the few days that I did well. Right. And so being forced to look at the days where you're falling and not hitting your goal is the only way that you're ever going to really, truly make the progress. Point 3. I'm not going to take a sip after every point, I promise. Point 3, the halo effect. The halo effect is they seem like a great lead. They seem great. And I really like to have a good lead. It seems like this is a good lead. Likability does not equal motivation. See, we've talked about that in the past, but we haven't linked it directly to this halo effect, which is we really want to see the best in all people. I have this issue when it comes to recruiting. When I sit down with a recruit, I project all the things that I see that are positive that they could be if they do everything right. And then I spend the rest of my life with those people trying to convince them how great they could be, and they're not convinced. So when you get emotionally attached to a certain prospect because they're nice or fun or seem like your type of client, but charm doesn't pay commissions. You have to qualify them, their timeline, their motivation. Are they the decision maker? Will they price it right? No exceptions. No exceptions. Next point, the optimism bias. The optimism bias is they're going to call me back. We had a good call. We really hit it off. They were very engaging. I think we got it. I had a good presentation. I think they really liked me. We had a great presentation, and I said, great, let me know when you're ready. I think they're going to call me back. So you overestimate the prospect's willingness to take initiative vastly. Leads are lazy. It's your job to chase them down. Follow up 5 to 7 times minimum. Be everywhere until you get a yes or a firm no. And then re-emphasize the word firm. Next point, point number 5, ego preservation. Ego preservation is my scripts sound better my way. This is how I like to say it. And when I say it like this, people really like it. Sometimes they even laugh. This is how I like to say that. And your edits are costing you deals. And it's not even because the scripts that I'm suggesting are perfect. And that's the biggest problem we have. You read through the scripts and you say, well, that doesn't sound great. I wouldn't like it if somebody said that to me. It's not about whether or not you would like it. It's not about it being perfect. It's about it being consistent across a group that now you can measure and qualify. Is this the problem or something else the problem? And until you have consistency in that script, you won't know what the problem is, and it will be a moving target. And wherever I find you, you'll come back and say, oh yeah, I got rid of that because it didn't work a couple times for me. And so now here's what I say. Well, now I have no idea why you're not getting results. Now you have no idea and I have no idea. But if you follow the script exactly, then the challenges that are causing you to not get deals rise to the surface and you can solve those. Then when you're doing so many deals that you can't manage them all, then you're trusted to go back and say, let's look at this script and see if I should change it holistically, not inside of a conversation. All right. So when the pipeline dries up, you blame interest rates. No, I'm sorry. I moved on to the next point. You deviate from proven scripts to sound more like you, and the ego is getting in the way of your income. The top 1% of people follow a formula. And that's all I'm interested in, not how engaging you are, not how charismatic you are. That's all important. I'm interested in what formula are you following? Scripts exist because they work under pressure. Stick to those words. You're not here to perform, you're here to close. That's a good one, right, Bobby?
Yeah, I like that one.
All right, next point. Point number 6 is self-serving bias. Self-serving. It's the market. It's not me. It's the market. I was talking to people at an open house. They're getting the same thing. I talked to another seller and he said he's getting the same thing. And so that's the reason that I'm getting this, right? The market is not your problem. Your habits are. So when your pipeline dries up, you blame interest rates, the buyer, the economy, anything but your activity. Again, track your calls, track your contacts, follow-ups, and appointments. You'll find the gap quickly. Your results there are your responsibility, nobody else's. Isn't this fun, Dean?
I mean, it's great. Love it.
Number 7 is loss aversion. This is a bias that we have that dictates our behavior often. We're afraid to lose things. I'm going to add here, you can't lose something you never had. I go into a deal, they say, we're not choosing you. Why is that loss? I never had anything. I never had it. How can I lose it? Wasn't mine. Right? You're losing deals by being soft. Fear of rejection keeps us from asking for the appointment. You hint instead of close. Don't hint. Close. Being direct isn't pushy, it's professional. If you don't ask, you won't get it. Rejection stings, and starvation stings worse.
David, why does it feel that I feel like when I like some of my best months have always been when I feel like shit. like as if I took on so much rejection. Why is there a correlation to me feeling that, wow, I like and then like as an example, like I've had like the last couple of weeks have been pretty decent, but like I just feel like I've just been getting rejected every single day, every moment of the day. But when I look at the board, my contacts are up, my appointments are up, my listings taken are up. It just is that a normal thing or that's just being
Yeah.
in pure action?
Yeah, there's a couple things that I think are important on that. So this is directly related to the cognitive biases of what you're hiding from yourself. When you don't feel completely well, but you still operate, what happens is you fall to the level of your training, right? Because you don't have energy for all the extra charisma and all the extra excitement. What you have done is you have trained, you have practiced, you have stayed consistent. And what you're noticing is if I just fall to that level of training and only operate with that consistency, it works. All the other stuff that I was adding to it is my ego adding what I think needs to be added. But if you have a good level of training, yeah, I've thrown up in the bushes before some of my best appointments. And when I get there, it's just showtime, right? And I fall to the level of these are the words I know. And I don't have energy to find other words. I don't have energy to have other conversations. This is what we're doing. And then it's like, I should do that all the time. Point number 8, effort justification, also known as the anchor bias. Effort justification is, but I worked so hard on this one. I worked so hard on this. And in reality, work doesn't equal value. There's no business that highlights this point more than our business. Work doesn't equal value. You stay busy, but busy doesn't equal effective. Mike Ferry says you can fuel cities with the energy of busy realtors that are not producing anything. So we justify branding, email cleanup, content planning, all while avoiding the hard stuff.
David, what did you recognize in the last couple of years with your own self and business? Because obviously I know you, I think a little bit better than some people on the call. Whereas like I know you went because I remember the time that you did say like all those things were important. Was that just because of just where we were with the market and now things are back to what we call basics, that these messages that you're talking about are true and timeless and classic?
Do you remember what we were talking about going back to?
So, well, this is what I remember you telling me, and if I could be so vulnerable on this call, we had a coaching call probably I would say about 3.5, 4 years ago. And I remember how proud I was that I was doing lead follow-up at like 7:30 at night. And you said to me, well, that's great. You're a great employee. That's great. You are a great, looking at this. Why don't we get some attraction into the business? Why don't we get some other things pulling to you as opposed to you just constantly pushing? Now, that could have been just for me, but I don't know why that always stuck with me. And it like totally rocked like my world after that comment. And then, but then like we went on this journey of like, building up profiles and content creation and other things. What has changed in your coaching or what has changed in your, just like reasoning of this business to now have these messages be so just timeless to me and classic as opposed to what we were about to embark on before.
Well, the point that stands out to me most is that I recognize more and more every single day that this is not an and, it's not an or business, it's an and business. So every single day I'm challenged with, oh, and that's my job too, and that's my job, and that's my job. And they're not mutually exclusive. So yeah, the company needs to plan content. The company needs a business plan. The company needs to be organized. And I think of even individual agents as a company. So understand when I say that, Dean, I always treated you like a company, even when you were an individual agent. And what I like to look at is the company has things that need to be done on behalf of the company. This is the way that we teach delegation and scaling, because once you start to understand that you're responsible for all those parts of the company, if you're an individual agent, then when you start to relieve yourself of some of those duties, you start to add other things and you're still responsible for those things. So I'm currently, as a producing broker, still responsible to drive the culture, to drive the vision, to go on appointments, but it doesn't relieve me of the obligation to prospect, find deals, attract more deals, move the deals forward. That's probably, the big, when a client calls me at 9:40, which he did this morning, and I was on this call at 10, calls through the listing department, and my listing manager is out for a couple of hours on personal stuff. I took the call and said, I'm going to give you as much as I possibly can. I don't recommend that anybody does that, but I can do that. I can do that because I'm going to give the time to everything else. And I know that that's the right thing to do in that situation. So most people, they make that decision and then it drives every other decision. And then the next day they think, I wonder if any of my listings need help at 9:40.
Yeah.
So here's what's most exciting about the business right now. I'm more excited about this business right now than I have been in at least 10 years. I get tingles because I like the idea that the fundamentals rule, that the good agents will win, that the market is hard. If I go out somewhere and they say, ooh, real estate market's tough, I love that. Yeah, it's tough. Hell yeah, it's everything about it's tough. And the harder it is, the more I enjoy it. Same with I tell my trainer that I go work out and I'm thinking I've been working out for 10 years and this is the best we can do. If it wasn't so difficult, I would have no interest in it. But still, most people are like, oh God, everything should be easier. The business, I remember when deals were flowing and it was easier. I remember when I was 20 and I could lose weight just because I stopped eating shit. I remember that. I want it to be hard. I want it all to be difficult. I want it to be really difficult to attain it because when I have it, it's valuable. That's why I'm excited. All right, let's move on to point number 9. Effective forecasting is a cognitive bias. I'm just not feeling it today, is effective forecasting. This point I've offered multiple times, but some of us need to hear it again. Your feelings are irrelevant, completely irrelevant. And I remind myself that on a regular basis. If I ever start talking about, if somebody asks me how I feel, somebody asks me how I feel, I get this immediate response. Like, and it depends on who it is, because I'll say things out of nicety, but I'm not checking in with how I feel. That's not a gauge. It's not a metric. It's not important. It's better if I feel good, and I'll make a lot of decisions to try to put myself in a position to feel good. But if you're asking yourself how you feel all day long, you're rarely going to feel good enough to do what needs to be done. So you believe that your current mood kind of determines your potential, and that's wrong. Top producers act independently of their emotional state. Your energy doesn't need to be perfect. Your execution does. Go to work anyways. I never wake up ever in my life and think, what would I like to do today? How do I feel? It does not exist. I was out of town last week with my family on a baseball trip. I woke up at the same time every single day. I knew exactly what was on my schedule for that day. I still hit my 75 hard every day, Rich. And that's what I enjoy. So some people are like, oh, you should enjoy your vacation. That is enjoyment for me. That I can stay. Now I'm back at my desk and it feels the same, which is wonderful. And there's no re-entering the Earth's surface going, oh man, I miss the beach. I wish I was sleeping in. There's no value in that. The only thing it does is gets all your expectations out of whack. So maybe I think differently on that, but maybe I've programmed myself to think differently. Most people I talk to are like, oh, I wish I could just live here all the time. And do what? Makes no sense to me at all.
Is that a mutually exclusive opinion? Like what you just mentioned right here, is that a mutually exclusive opinion about getting the results? I mean, clearly people like you get amazing results. So it's like, is that just this whole living in this tough mentality of what you're saying, not thinking about retirement or living on a beach and enjoying every single moment? Is that just what it takes to get the results that we're all here, learning and constantly being exposed to?
So I lost track a long time ago of determining what I actually like and what I don't like. And I did that very willingly and specifically on purpose. So what I recognized was you have to prospect every day. No, you get to prospect every day. I'd wake up in the morning and I think I cannot wait to get there. Now, at some point, it flipped to the point where if I was away from my desk for a day and I got to go do something fun, whatever that means, I was thinking, I wonder what's going on at the office. And when I'm out of town, I'll say things to people that we're with, like other families, like, I wish I was at the office. I wish I was there. And it's not a lie. I'm not puffing it up. I'm not trying to act like I'm more into my business than I am. It's truly the way I feel. So is that because of conditioning over years of programming? Maybe. But the idea, everything in your life is, if you can get to a point where you find joy in the necessity of what you actually need to do, then all of a sudden life is completely different. I love that I get to go work out. And some people recognize it and say, wow, you get to work out in the middle of the day and then come back to work. It's the best. Then I go lift something heavy and I eat the exact same thing every day. I love it. And I eat the food and I think, God, this is the best part of my day. And you know what I say when I get to eat my protein pancakes with my shake? I say, this is the best part of my day. And there's other people that are like, if I had to live like that, like there's nothing spicy. Trust me, there's plenty of spice in my life. I don't need spicy for breakfast. I don't need so much. And that's the thing that we have is this idea that we need nuance and variation all the time. We don't thrive in variation. I do not thrive in variation. I love the fact that when I get on my routine and everything is the same, it's predictable, it's the most peaceful place. There's plenty of variation that life is going to throw you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I truly don't know if I really don't care for the beach or if I'd rather be at the office more. But I can tell you, I'm happier right here on this call than if I was sitting on the beach with a Mai Tai. I am. Am I weird? I don't know. Am I conditioned? Maybe. But
But there's
wouldn't
no,
it be
but
nice?
you can't feel this way all the time. What do you tell yourself when you don't feel this way?
Here's what I tell myself when I don't feel this way is everybody else is making a different decision. And this is where I get to shine. If I'm working on the business, doing my workout on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock and thinking this is what I think is this is where everyone else caves. This is where everyone else gives in and says, well, I deserve it. I deserve a break. Right. And we probably do that on a daily basis. Like and I will get feedback from other people that are not operating that way saying, don't you deserve a break? It's not about deserving a break. You're unclear about what I want. And maybe you're unclear on this call about what you want.
Mm-hmm.
If you're unclear about what you want, you're constantly seeking. Now, I had times 15 years ago, I had a radio show and it took so much out of me to do this radio show for 48 minutes every single week that after the show, I would go home and draw the shades completely dark on a Saturday at 2. And I was like, do not talk to me for 3 hours. I'm out of gas. And I was convinced. And I used to feel the same way about prospecting. I'd prospect, and then at the end of it, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad this day's over. It was just that level that I was capable of operating at this point. And now it may take years. Your journey is your journey. It may be a switch, it may be a dial. But at this point, there is no difference to me in talking to this entire group versus hanging up and having a phone call with one seller versus going and eating my breakfast and seeing what people are talking about in the break room. There is no difference to me because I'm operating at a level of efficiency that I'm prepared for all those things and I enjoy all of it. Now, I'm not trying to be braggadocious about that. I'm trying to convey to you that if you look at the parts where you feel like you're unhappy. I told my 14-year-old son last week, I said, how do you feel different at 14 than you did at, say, 5? Do you remember being a young kid? He's not very talkative at 14. He's sitting in my front seat. He said, yeah, there's just a lot more to do. And I'm like, yeah, there is a lot more to do. I said, do you feel like that affects your happiness? He said, yeah, I do. And I said, good. At 14, it's important that you start to understand. And I believe this applies to men and women, but this is what I said to him. I said, you're starting to understand at 14 that as a man, life is not about happiness. That's not a thing. And it's not that happiness doesn't exist. I'm happy as shit. It's not a thing. Your life is about duty. Your life is about achieving what you set yourself to achieve and doing what you're supposed to do. Now, even the women on this call can recognize that the business requires this masculine approach. It is not about how you feel. It's not about happiness. It's about duty. If you set goals, it's your duty to show up and achieve those goals. Now, when I'm away from the office and I have my family, I'm accessing my feminine side too, trying to understand, asking questions, listening, being a part of that relationship. Those are feminine qualities, just yin and yang, that we all have to use. In this business, there's masculine qualities that men and women both exude that help us enjoy the process more. And I believe that, by the way, at 14, your life is not about happiness. Do your job. Do your job. He's going to baseball. He's going to school. He's getting ready for this. He's going to swimming. Do your job. Life is hard. You know what I said? I hope it kicks the shit out of you. And I do. And I love that kid. And I mean that. I hope you get your ass beat, because nobody, this is what I said to him, nobody wants to follow someone who hasn't been through something.
Mama say, mama sa, mama kusa.
Mm.
You are preaching, my brother.
Cue the Michael. All right, point 10. Point 10 is the urgency effect. This just came up. Oh, urgency. Now, we live in a world where everything appears urgent. If you haven't, go back and read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Everybody thinks they've read it because it's been around forever. Reread it and actually read it for understanding, not for completion. If you go in there, there's 4 quadrants where we make decisions. And there's urgent and important. There's urgent and not important. There's important and urgent. And you have to start to recognize when things show up. We have agents that call every single day. Lockbox won't open. Okay, that's urgent, right? But is it important? Maybe. Or we have agents that call and say, I need to show this house 2 weeks from now. Okay, out of sequence. So we're filtering these things all day long. I have a new listing manager. We had a conversation this morning, and I said, one of the most difficult things that you'll have to learn to work through is how I filter priority. Because as a task-oriented person, Teddy, this will make sense. As a task-oriented person, if there's something on the list that needs to be done, well, we need to do that. To operate at the highest level, your job is to let somebody down every single day. You just got to figure out who the best person to let down is. Now, I will often tell prospects and clients that every day I let somebody down. Usually it's my kids. Today it happened to be you. Right? And they'll accept that. But that's what it feels like to be producing at the highest possible level. You look at you triage all the things that need to be done, and then you determine what's most important, what needs to be done now, what can wait. And even if people don't like it, especially for amiable people on the call, you're letting people drive your day based on their fire. And I'll say, do not let an emergency on your part create one on mine. An emergency on your part does not create an emergency on my part. And you can meet them exactly where you are in that case and say, I understand this feels like an emergency to you. Right? The client call that I took at 9:40, his house went under contract Saturday. It's Monday at 9:40, and he wants to know where the earnest deposit is, why it's not in, why this isn't, when the walkthrough is going to be 3 weeks from now. Listen, I understand that all feels really important, and it is, but you need to wait 24 hours for all those things to. It's 9. Let everybody get back to their desk. Let us run our process. You'll have all your answers in a day. That was the call. Now, was I going to call the title company and say, where is it? Was I going to call the agent and say, do you promise you're going to bring it? No, that's the things people do, right? No, you need to give it a day and we'll have all that stuff answered. So you're constantly interrupted during your prospecting by emails, text, or fires that feel like they can't wait. Why? Because urgent things feel more important. They feel more important, but they're not. Important is prospecting. Urgent is noise. Look at your schedule and don't apologize for guarding it. I have situations that come up where, and this happened recently, and I won't bore you with the details, but someone said to me, are you going to this? And I said, now, and it was a thing that everybody was going to, or at least that's how they were positioning it. There's a lot of shame involved always. Well, you're going to go, right? I said, no. And then I get this like, no, with no explanation. And I just looked at this person. No. And that's a challenge for some people on the call. But when you do what you say you're going to do, you're proactive about your schedule, you're purposeful about it, you should be able to get to a point where you say, no, I'm not doing that. And it's not aggressive on your part. It wasn't aggressive on mine. It was just the answer is no. And my favorite thing to say to someone who pushes that line is, I don't answer to you. I don't answer to you. And I know that gets people triggered. I know that there's people that are like, I can't say that. But sometimes people need that reminder, don't they? I don't answer to you. People get out of whack with all this stuff. I don't even know these people. And they're like, oh, you got to go. You got to be here. Well, everybody's going to be there. Well, yeah, I have a couple of rules. Number one, I don't answer to you. And number two, I refuse to be collected. I refuse. Oh, everybody's going? Perfect. I'm going that way. I refuse to be collected. I'm not doing that. That's how I usually know. So sales is 90% discipline, 10% talking. Your brain is wired to avoid discomfort. Override it. Track the truth. Follow the process. And stay in the fight.
Boom.
Cue the music. Cue the music.
Yeah, drop that mic. Drop that mic. Shit.
Dude, I'm going to get a neon sign that says track the truth. That's powerful right there.
Track the truth. Isn't that great?
Did you already order it, Teddy?
Yeah.
She's good.
You were making the sign. No way, Teddy. When people like in a presentation will say something like, gosh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Or they recognize that they like something. Oh, there it is. You know what? What I like to say is the truth resonates at a high frequency. And some of you have heard me say that. This is the other piece that when you get clear, you'll start to recognize the truth just resonates at a high frequency. People, I'll say like, well, you had a presentation from that guy. What'd you like about him? I don't really know. Did you not like him? I didn't not like him. Why are you choosing me? I mean, just the stuff that you say. The truth resonates at a high frequency. When I say it, it's like, I know that that's true. We are wired to understand that without understanding it.
So, I mean, that's the same thing why, like, seller says to us, right? Like, why did they pick you over all these other agents? And it's like, they like, you hear the saying, I got good vibes from DVN. Or, right? I mean, that's what you're saying, I think, right? On that, the frequency, the vibes.
Good vibes. When you say something, when I show up on this call and I offer you a point, if I didn't live that point, you wouldn't feel it the same. If I was telling you a story and I made the story up or read it in a book, you would know.
So amazing.
You would know.
It's so crazy to say that, but it's so true.
It's so true. It's like when somebody who's like divorced 3 times gives you relationship advice. It's like, what? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. That's the point, that the people that have the least to offer the most. Another way to recognize people to avoid. They always have the answers, right? I'm really close with Josh Barker, who's probably the most prolific Mike Ferry agent of all time. According to Mike Ferry, he's the best Mike Ferry agent of all time. He went and lived on a boat in Florida during COVID, and he was coaching me personally during that time from a satellite phone. And I said, what are you doing down there? He says, I get to hang out with all these rich people and all these, and I'm thinking, you're rich too, dude. You're on a boat. Right. And he says, yeah, that's not my approach, though. I sit around and I just ask questions all day long and I just listen to these guys talk. I mean, that guy's got so much to offer. We could make 60 of these videos out of it. And even in my personal relationship with him, you know what he does? He asks me questions. And I'm thinking, shit, he got me again. Now he's got me talking and I should be listening. Right. That's what smart people do. They ask questions and listen.
Amen.
All right. Any challenges? Any other points? Anything else anybody wants to offer? We're landing the plane.
Just to stress that, like, emergency thing, like an emergency in your life does not then mean it's an emergency in mine.
Yeah.
that is like huge, because even like this past weekend, I had a super busy weekend. I had like 16 or 17 missed calls from agents, calls, text messages. Hey, I scheduled my showing at the wrong time, but I'm here now. And like, I don't know. And I literally couldn't answer them for hours because I was busy moving our office and all this stuff. And it's like everybody ended up figuring it out, and there was no need to even bother me about it. You know what I mean? But that stuff like bogs you down. So
Yeah. So
definitely that.
let's look at that piece real quick before we go. So the emotional response that you get is the shame. And shame is the most powerful tool that people have over you. So when I get a call and an agent says, I had a call yesterday with an agent. I've been trying to get this offer together for a week. You know what I said? I know how that feels. So let me tell you where we're at. And I met her exactly where I was, because I wasn't going to be flared up by it. I'm not going to apologize for all those things. It makes sense where we are. Let's just deal with where we're at now. But people they have to use that, because that's what they think is their power.
Right.
What you have to recognize is your ability to not engage in that is your power. And when you give all your power away by trying to either explain yourself, or explain why you're saying no, or explain what happened so they understand, even though they're never going to forgive you for that infraction that cost them their energy, then you give all your energy to somebody that doesn't deserve it. So work on just having no energy for people that want to create their own drama.
Oh yeah, I don't anymore. I don't care. I get annoyed because I'm like, leave me alone. Like, figure it out. You're a full-on adult. Like, this is not that pressing. But I know that for like the agents who are like trying to prospect, or trying to build their business, like it can be frustrating, and not
But
everything is in a marketplace.
recognize where you have to engage aggression to deal with it, though. Even if you don't voice it,
Yeah.
if your temperature comes up and you emotionally respond, then you start to recognize, even though I'm not sharing it, I'm just kind of eating it, it is affecting me. And I got to call this person back. If you start to get awareness around that, then when you make the call, you can say, listen, I know how that feels. Let's talk about where we are.
True. That's a good point.
That's the truth. You've been coaching me on this for like 3 to 6 months, and now more
Really?
than ever, that's indirectly about about the mindset, about the frequency, about the urgency. Like we talk about these things in different formats, right? But like when you're talking about like the mind, right, and how it basically affects all these things, and like the ego, you're definitely right on. And what you say and how you act, like I'm watching how you're acting, and I'm remembering what you said, and you definitely live it, and it transpires through other people. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out where we had specifically touched on that, but I guess it's peppered in, right? But wouldn't it be nice?
It's more or less since like we went back to the 75, right? And how all that kind of like transpires into exactly what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like no room for negativity, right? So I was like, no, I don't want to be there because I don't trust myself. I can't go to this party because I don't trust myself. I might drink. So since this might happen, I'm gonna go this direction, right? Or these people or these sellers are like, I'll never forget the time. I was like, hey, I have these sellers that keep always randomly calling me around this time. You were like, if you can't effectively communicate and get off the call within 2 minutes, you're saying the wrong things or something like that. And ever since then, I just plowed through the calls.
Well, that's great. We got to pick an ending spot. I suppose this is it.
Thank you, sir.
Have a great Monday, everybody.
Thank you.
Later.
Appreciate it, guys.
See you guys.